linked up on Mark13News.com for January 22nd, 2024 is first of all Russia's growing influence in Africa, the full title of the article being Russia's growing influence in Africa amid shifting alliances in a multipolar world, meaning this is anti-unipolar propaganda stemming from the Kenites on the multipolar end of the globalist spectrum, with Russia being the current king of the north according to the Daniel 11 hypothesis on biblicalresearchlabs.com, as well as Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, meaning most likely Moscow and Tobolsk. The chief prince in the Hebrew means the head or leader of Rosh, as in Russia, and both Libya and Ethiopia are part of the Ezekiel 38 Confederacy, as you can see in Ezekiel 38 verse 5. Both African countries and Ethiopia just joined BRICS, as the Ezekiel 38 Confederacy continues to formulate, mainly because of the multipolarist Kenites reacting to the actions of the unipolarist Kenites and vice versa. Nation shall rise against nation means the Kenite nation rising up against itself within the shadow government thereof, which is symbolized by the he-goat of Daniel chapter 8. Also linked up on Mark13News.com for January 22nd is ties deepened between Russia and North Korea in the Iran-Pakistan equation, Iran being Persia in Ezekiel 38, as you can also see in the 5th verse, and linked up for January 25th is first of all Moscow's objectives in Africa, followed by Iran and Russia's partnership against the West, and finally NATO begins largest exercise since Cold War, the United States, which is Manasseh being the current king of the South according to the Daniel 11 hypothesis, which also says the United Nations is the great horn of the he-goat written of in Daniel chapter 8 verse 8. It's only when the great horn of the he-goat gets broken that the four notable ones will emerge toward the four winds of heaven, which always means the 5-month-long hour of temptation, in this case at the beginning of it at the woe of the fifth trumpet, when Satan and his angels get cast to earth. That's when the so-called New World Order will emerge, made up of those four notable ones, which are the four beasts of Daniel chapter 7, the fourth beast being exclusively supernatural, which is how we know the one-world political system of Revelation 13, the New World Order as it's called, won't come into being until Satan and his angels get cast to earth at the woe of the fifth trumpet, including those 10 fallen angel kings, and it's at that time the he-goat of Daniel chapter 8 will become the leopard of Daniel chapter 7, which is symbolic of the Kenites and their four hidden dynasties providing the infrastructure of the one world system. It's also at the woe of the fifth trumpet the Ezekiel 38 Confederacy will become the bear of Daniel chapter 7, which is the fourth king of the north, with the fourth king of the south being the lion of Daniel chapter 7, which will be made up of the Christian nations up until just after the deadly wound when Satan appears as the Antichrist at the woe of the sixth trumpet, because that's when most Christians begin worshiping Satan instead of Christ, which is what Antichrist means, causing the Christian nations to become non-Christian nations also, Satan being the king of Babylon of the end times, which doesn't come into being until 666, which is when most Christians will go from being the virgin bride to the whore of Babylon when the final 2.5 months of the 5-month-long hour of temptation begin, or 70 evenings, which are what the 70 years in captivity to the Babylon of old were a type of, and if they don't repent before the true Christ returns at the woe of the seventh trumpet, they'll be counted as evil figs and cast into the outer darkness, along with the Kenites who also will have failed to repent before the seventh angel sounds.